In today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the creepiest finds in our jungles and dense forests. This includes a tree that moves in a city whose civilization we know literally nothing about. But first, let's talk about the smallest hacker in existence. That being the mind control fungus. Somewhere deep in the jungle, something sinister is happening. A helpless creature clings onto a leaf vein, hoping against hope that somehow something would save its dear life. Alas though, it's already over. Try as it might, no matter what it does, only death awaits it. This is because its brain and body have already been hijacked to belong to something else. This something else is the Cordyceps unilaterus, a fungus designed with only one goal: to self-propagate and disperse, leaving the host body as nothing but a shriveled corpse. The unilaterus, or the Cordyceps for short, is a species found in tropical forests that can infect ants through spores that attach to it and penetrate its exoskeleton, allowing it to take over the ant's behaviors slowly. As the infection advances, the ant is made to leave its home and search for a humid area favorable to the parasite's growth. Usually, these places would be under leaves about 10 inches off the ground. Once there, the ant clamps its jaws on the leaf vein and waits for death. Sad thing for these insects is that this cycle repeats after the first ant falls. Several days after the victim dies, the fungus, having eaten its innards and busting out through the head, the corpse becomes a new source of spores that can infect even more ants. Ew. Well, if anything, there's at least two good news despite all this. At first, the fungus only infects a few ants at any given time. And second, the cordyceps does not affect humans. Yeah, our bodies are better at attacking pathogens than ants are, but don't tell me some of you wanted the zombie apocalypse to happen in real life. Next, we have the boiling river. Found in the heart of the Peruvian Amazon, Andres Russo, a geoscientist, came upon the boiling river. This river flows for over 4 miles, is as wide as a 2-lane road, and is even 16 feet deep in certain places. What makes it unique, however, is its temperature. This body of water averages at a temperature of 168 degrees Fahrenheit, or 75 degrees Celsius. Mind you, that's enough to cook whatever small animals were unfortunate enough to fall into its depths and give humans 2nd to 3rd degree burns. But how is this possible? Well, it's actually because of a fault. According to Russo, the water sinks deep underground and takes heat from the earth, later shooting back up through the faults and cracks to create the hot river. You might think that since it's coming from the underground it might be a bit cooler, but no, that's really not the case. Sadly, this monument of nature is quickly disappearing, with the biggest culprit being deforestation due to it being in a jungle open to development, which can be exploited legally. To have a better idea of how the river has been affected so far, Russo states that in 2011, when he first went to look for the boiling river, it took him 4 hours to arrive at the site, but in 2014 a 3-hour drive was all that was required to get there. Walking trees. If you thought trees were static creatures, you're wrong. Just look at this one zooming in front of the camera. Alright, jokes aside, there is a tree that walks of sorts, and it's called the walking tree. It doesn't move the way you would expect it though. According to Peter Vransky, a paleobiologist from the Earth Science Institute of the Slovak Academy of Sciences Bratislava, the movement is like this. The new roots settle into the soil and the tree bends slowly towards it, uprooting its other half. The overall process is slow, and it'll take one tree a couple of years to have gotten to its destination where there's better sunlight. I'm sure that's one way to relocate. It's a long and arduous process, but one that still seems kinda magical. Given the description, it's gonna be hard to spot it happening in person. Next is the Sentinelese people. The Sentinelese are the most isolated tribe on Earth. They inhabit the jungle of North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean, where they're believed to have lived for over 60,000 years. However, even after knowing that, the actual number of people in the tribe is somewhat debated. Currently, the most agreed upon estimate is that the Sentinelese tribe has about 50 to 200 individuals. Had you been watching the news in recent years, you know that these people are also quite hostile to outsiders. 2018, an American man named John Allen Chow was killed by members of the tribe when he tried to spread religion. Before him, members also killed 2 Indian fishers who drifted ashore due to their broken boat in 2006. Ugh, talk about a tough crowd. As sad as it is to hear about the deaths though, we can't really blame the Sentinelese. Neighboring tribes were eradicated after the British colonized their islands. Not only that, but they also lack immunity to common diseases such as the flu. That means that if the tribe catches these illnesses, the tribe may very likely vanish. That said, there were moments when outsiders could make contact with them safely. Over in the early 1990s, when Sentinelese accepted gifts of coconuts from a team from the Anthropological Survey of India, they were a lot more welcoming. How though? Well, when the armed protectors of the tribe were ready to fire arrows at them from the coast, the team slowly started floating the coconuts over to them, surprising them. So instead of firing their arrows, they came into the water to collect the gifts. After a while, they let the team dock safely on the shore. It's kind of a give and take situation, really. Next is AOKIGAHARA. Trigger warning, the following entry will gravitate heavily towards the discussion of depression and suicide. If you're someone who doesn't want to hear mentions of this, kindly skip to the next portion of this video. Similarly, if you're someone in need of people to talk to, please get in touch with the crisis line. Thank you. Anyone who's even spent a smidge of time on social media probably heard about the Logan Paul controversy of 2018. No, the other one. Okay, there's a lot of controversies. This one in particular. In the video, he and his friends explored AOKIGAHARA, popularly known as the forest, and made jokes they came upon a deceased man's body. I joke about him not being classy, but this is pretty standard Logan Paul at this point. As sad as his poor reaction was, the depressing reality is that if you go out of your way to explore this area, you'll likely uncover the remains of those who passed or items they left behind. A quick search on YouTube will prove just that. AOKIGAHARA is hauntingly beautiful, at the base of Mount Fuji. Unfortunately, it became the final destination for hundreds of people who died due to sadness. Since the 50s, records only show that suicides in the forest have increased by the year. 2003 alone, 105 victims were discovered there. To prevent this number from growing further, police have mounted different signs on trees within the forest, providing little reminders that someone still cares. It's an admirable effort regardless of who it's from, but sadly this does little to deter those who are already determined. Veering off topic for just a little, if you are someone struggling, please don't give up hope. It may take a while, maybe even a long time, but slowly things will get less and less bleak. Our next entry is Sigiriya. As beautiful and awe-inspiring as this lost city is, I'm not gonna lie to ya. Judging from the pictures, I'd hate to have been a drunken citizen there. One wrong move and you're out, permanently. See that drop too, don't ya? Makes me wonder if they ever had taverns. Either way, Sigiriya was first noticed in 1831 when one Major Jonathan Forbes of the British Army returned from a trip to Polonnaruwa. Since then, the city has accumulated plenty of interest from antiquarians and archaeologists, with attention being focused on it in 1982. But what's the story behind this city, and why is nobody using it now at this point? Well, Sigiriya was a city built for King Kaseyapa after he fled the capital of Anuradhapura. Why did he flee? Well, we got the throne is pretty sketchy. The man killed his father and took the crown from his brother, Moggallana. Makes sense now why the city seems like a fortress, huh? After all, in the video and from pictures online, we see the remains of thick walls and moats built back in 477 AD. That isn't to say it was simply a military city, though. At sections where aristocrats lived, canals and beautifully landscaped gardens existed. Overall, the city was one of splendor. However, the city fell because Moggallana wanted revenge. He brought his soldiers and besieged the city. Kaseyapa realized he had no hope of winning during the battle and cut his own throat. Since his victory, Moggallana reinstated Anuradhapura as the capital and gave Sigiriya to the monks. Said monks then lived there until about the 14th century and have since abandoned the place. Next we have the Lost City of the Monkey God. The Lost City of the Monkey God sounds like a place set in the adventure book or a movie, and for a while it was indeed a myth, but I promise you it's 100% real. 2015, the White City, also called the Lost City of the Monkey God, discovered in the jungles of the Honduras, featured extensive plazas, earthworks, and even a pyramid that belonged to a culture that thrived about 1,000 years ago. There's even a cache of stone sculptures found there that was untouched since the city's abandonment. In contrast to other ancient civilizations like the Mayans and the Aztecs, virtually nothing is known about those who lived in this city. It's a pretty big surprise that even experts don't even have a name for them. According to Christopher Fisher, a Mesoamerican archaeologist from Colorado State University, the cache found at the pyramid's base was likely used as an offering. This is a powerful ritual display to take wealth objects like this out of circulation, he said in an interview. After further investigation, 52 artifacts were also peeking from the earth, some of which were carved vessels with zoomorphic figures resembling a were-jaguar. But you want to know the most significant and scariest find in this city? Well, it might even explain why no one knows much about them. Sorry for those with sensitive stomachs, but experts found a flesh-eating disease that rots off a person's face. Yeah, and you might be wondering how they figured that out. That's because the explorers came home with it. Yeah. What is it with places with pyramids having something like a curse to go along with it? Now it's time for the day's best pick. Our very first pick is believed to be the footprints of a god, whereas the second concerns itself with people who definitely had no problem grabbing food, regardless of how high up it is. Lord Hanuman's footprint. Well, those are some big footprints, but just who was Lord Hanuman and how would he leave traces like those behind? Well, Lord Hanuman is a Hindu god who was a great devotee of Lord Rama, the seventh avatar of Vishnu, and is one of the central characters in the Hindu epic Ramayana. Evidence of devotional worship to him was scarce in most archaeological sites, despite being a symbol of nationalism and resistance to persecution. These days, however, in the modern era, his iconography in temples have become common thanks to many people's view of him as the ideal person, strong, heroic, and loving. So what's with the footprints then? Honestly, I don't know, as I'm not too familiar with Hinduism. According to sources I've read, however, his physical traces prove his ancient presence here on Earth. These footprints specifically are said to be due to him leaping to land in different countries. I'll list some of the places his prints can be seen, though. The first is in Thailand, whose ancient capital used to be named Ayutthaya, where Hanuman guarded the ram Jamabhumi, the site believed to be the birthplace of Rama. Also, before anybody comments, I know I'm butchering these names. The second one is at Lapakshi in Andhra Pradesh, though there is some debate whether the footprint there is Lord Hanuman's or Mother Sita, the consort of Rama. The third is found in a jungle in Sri Lanka, at a spot where Hanuman landed from India with great force and his footprint was left on solid stone. Lastly, the fourth may be found in Penang, Malaysia, kept within a small temple where people throw coins for good luck. I wonder if that worked for any of them. Next we have the Lost City of Giants. 2013, a team of explorers and researchers discovered an ancient pyramid complex in the Ecuador Amazonian jungle. Bruce Fenton, one of the researchers, completed an analysis of what they found and believes their discovery may be of the Lost City of the Giants. But why is that? Some of the tools found in the archaeological site are far too big. If a normal-sized person used it, they'd face extreme difficulty handling the device. This is further backed by the local legends about the Amazonian area, especially as the place generates great fear among the jungle tribes. These tribes believe that they are protected by beings unknown to the world. Aside from that, even great explorers have gone into the jungles and failed to return. No wonder they're scared. Okay, maybe that's just hearsay to you, but how about this then? There is a massive structure with an 80 by 80 meter base, with each irregularly cut stone block weighing approximately 2 tons. I'd like to remind you that to cover an area that big, hundreds of blocks had to be used to make up the walls alone. Could ordinary humans do that? Maybe. However, the most damning evidence is that the team did find bones of giant people in caves nearby and in other parts of Ecuador. This is significant, especially as the region was a meeting place of different tribes, some of whom came from far away as Brazil. Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you will get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it really works. Our very last entry for the day is mass graves. May 2015, Thai police discovered more than 30 bodies in a human trafficking camp on a hillside deep in a southern Thai jungle. In the Sadao district of Songkhla province, the digging site yielded corpses believed to be migrants from Myanmar and Bangladesh, most of whom were found to be men. Thankfully, upon further inspection, authorities found 3 survivors at the camp, 2 of whom were children. But just who were the victims? How did this terrible event happen? Authorities claim the victims were Muslim Rohingya who either escaped persecution or sought employment in Thailand and Malaysia. Unfortunately, the people they thought would help them were traffickers, and they were instead held captive for ransom despite having paid a fee for their travels. The traffickers would force victims to call and beg their families to pay for their release. To prove how serious they were, smugglers would often beat the hostage while on call. Should the money not arrive when it was due, the smugglers threatened to slice the hostage's throat. How hefty were the ransoms, you ask? Well, the demands they gave would cost as high as 3,650 euros. Pretty expensive, but still, anyone would send anything they own to save someone they love. Sadly for some, it was far too late. See you all next time.